It's 1989 and Mike O'Donnell warms up for the game tonight. He throws a couple of practice hoops with ease, confirming that he's a star. His coach then comes out and tells him that there will be scouts at the game, and if he plays well, he'll score a full scholarship to a college, and his life will be made. Just before the game starts, Mike's girlfriend, Scarlett, appears in the bleachers. She looks upset, and Mike goes to her. We don't hear the conversation, but Mike returns to the game looking confused and a little upset. The game's about to start, but when Mike sees Scarlett break into tears and run off, he chases her. Again, we don't hear what's said, but he picks her up and spins her around. Whatever it was, they're both clearly thrilled. It's present day, and Mike wakes up alone in what looks like a kid's room. The room belongs to his man-child best friend, Ned, and Mike is staying with him. As the two eat breakfast, Ned reminds Mike that his wife is divorcing him and his children want nothing to do with him. But then he points out that it isn't all that bad, as Mike is expected to get a promotion today. Mike latches onto this promotion, as he sees it as the start of things turning around for him. Mike's in a meeting at work. His boss looks about 10 years younger than he does, and his colleagues are all attractive women at least 15 years younger than he is. When the topic of the promotion comes up, Mike looks eager, thinking that the role is his. But then it goes to one of the young women, despite her only being there for 2 months, and he for 20 years. Furious, he snaps at his boss and breaks his earpiece, which sees Mike get fired. Mike goes to his children's school, the same one that he once went to. He walks to the basketball court and reminisces on better times. He even sees a photo of his younger self from the same night Scarlett told him about being pregnant. As Mike looks at old photos, a janitor suddenly appears beside him. The janitor seems to know who Mike is, and even asks if he'd like to do it all over again if he could. Mike says that of course he would, as things were so much better then. The janitor seems pleased by this response. It's then that Mike's daughter, Maggie, appears with some friends. She doesn't look all that excited about seeing her father, but he tells her to grab her brother so they can go out for ice cream. Neither of his two children seem interested in Mike, or at all keen on having ice cream with him. He tries to ask his son, Alex, about basketball. He then tries to speak with Maggie about the college she got into. Again, they both rebuff and refuse to talk. Mike drops his kids off at home, only to see his wife in the backyard feeding his things into a giant wood chipper. She tells him that she's going to transform the backyard into something beautiful as part of her new career path in landscaping. Cinema recap here. We've got a little challenge that'll take 5 seconds, and it will change your life forever. You ready? All you gotta do is like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you'll receive 10 free years of good luck. It's as simple as that. He tries to tell her that she has no right, as they aren't officially divorced yet, but she points out that he checked out of the marriage and his life years ago. The theme of the conversation becomes Mike's refusal to move on from when he was younger and accept the way things are. Mike drives home in the rain. As he crosses a bridge, he notices an old man standing on a handrail as if about to jump off. Mike pulls over to see if the man's all right, and that's when he notices that it's the janitor from earlier. The janitor smiles at him and jumps off the side. Mike goes after him, and when he looks over the edge and into the water, he sees a giant whirlpool that seems to be flashing images at him. Mike leans forward, confused by what he sees, and that's when he falls. Mike arrives back at Ned's house, covered in mud. It isn't until he starts to shower that he notices his reflection. He freaks out. It's his younger self. The screaming wakes Ned, who sneaks through the house with a prop battle axe and a helmet. When he sees the young Mike, he instantly freaks out and attacks. What follows are the two best friends fighting one another for a variety of pop culture weaponry as Mike tries to explain who he is. Ned refuses to believe him, until he grabs a framed photo to smack Mike over the head with, only to see the photo is of a young Mike, and he looks exactly like the man in Ned's house. Finally, Ned believes. Mike and Ned sit in the kitchen, surrounded by books. They've been doing some readings on what this could possibly mean. Ned claims that what has happened to Mike is a spirit guide transformation, where Mike has been transformed by his spirit guide to be sent down a new path in life. Mike suddenly realizes that the janitor is the spirit guide, and the reason for all of this happening. He rushes to the school, desperate to find the janitor. The janitor is nowhere to be seen, but being back at his school again gives Mike an idea. He realizes that this has happened to him so he can relive his senior year and have another shot at doing his life right again. It's perfect. He tells this plan to Ned, who doesn't agree and demands that he be kept out of it. Acting as his father, Ned helps Mike enroll in the school. Although it all goes to plan, Ned very quickly falls in love with the school's principal, Jane Masterson. He tries to flirt with her, but she tells him that she doesn't date her students' parents. Ned doesn't seem to mind. A quick shopping trip at the behest of Ned sees Mike transformed into a cool, attractive teenager. He arrives at school in a sports car wearing an expensive jacket and some fresh sunnies. Boys point, girls stare, and Mike feels himself. That's until the school bell rings. The kids pour from the classroom and remind Mike of how crazy high school can be. Mike's in class settling in when his wife calls him. Apparently, they have divorce proceedings today, and Mike is forced to lie about being out of the country for a few weeks. In gym class, Mike can't believe how fit he is. He shoots a few hoops and the coach approaches and suggests that he try out for the team. Mike eagerly accepts, thinking this is part of his new path. He calls Ned from the bathroom to tell him the good news, and Ned asks that he get himself in trouble and sent to the principal's office. The call gets cut short when someone in a nearby cubicle calls out for help. It's Alex, Mike's son. He's been taped to the toilet by the basketball team and can't escape. Mike helps his son and explains that he is in fact Ned's son transferred here from another school. As such, the two should hang out and look out for one another. Alex agrees, but only because it looks as if he has few friends. They have lunch together, and Mike can't believe that his son isn't popular and cool like he was. Really, he doesn't know his son at all. It's now that he spots the school bully, Stan, making out with Maggie. It disgusts Mike, who doesn't bother to hide it. Stan sees Mike watching him and approaches. Stan starts out by picking on Alex. This sets Mike off, who stands up to stand in front of the whole school. They don't fight, but instead, Mike belittles and insults Stan, using his knowledge of reality and the world in general to point out of how much of a loser Stan is, and he's going nowhere in life. The speech gets a lot of attention, with most of the school watching on and laughing. The only one who isn't amused is Stan. Back at Ned's house, Mike eats literally everything he can get his hands on. He also explains to Ned that he's wrong about his spirit path. He wasn't sent back to help himself, but to help his kids and make sure that they have the future he never did. Mike goes to his house to find Alex there playing basketball. He's surprised to see how good at basketball Alex is, and then realizes that he can help his son get on the team, and that'll solve everything. Scarlett turns up with her friend. They say hello, but when Scarlett gets a closer look at Mike, she can't believe how much he looks like her ex-husband. Her friend thinks this is just the divorce on her mind, but Scarlett's convinced. As Mike shoots hoops, Scarlett discusses with her friend her plan to find a new playmate to get over Mike. Mike tries to talk her out of it, which only confuses the matter. It's class time, and today the teacher's discussing safe sex with the students. Where everyone else seems excited to finally cover this topic, Mike takes a stand and promotes abstinence, although it's clear he's doing so to try and turn Maggie off the idea of sleeping with her boyfriend Stan. His speech is compelling, and soon he has some of the other girls agreeing with him. Even Maggie looks like she might be getting swayed. When the condoms get passed out, Stan takes as many as he can get his hands on, stating that they should last the weekend. He kisses Maggie, and Mike, infuriated, tackles him to the ground. They fight. Stan easily overpowers him, and the rest of the class record it on their phones. Mike gets his butt kicked, and it goes viral. Ned's thrilled, as it means he gets a chance to visit the principal again. He peacocks, but she calls him out and doubles down on how uninterested she is. Back at his house, Mike bumps into Scarlett as she unpacks the car. She still can't believe how much he looks like her ex-husband. He asks her about the gardening work she's doing. They flirt a little, and when he asks if she needs a hand, she misinterprets him as trying to pick her up. He assures her that he just wants to help because it'll look good on his college application form. Embarrassed, she agrees. Mike spends time with his family. He helps Scarlett with her backyard project. Flirting innocently as he does, he keeps Maggie and Stan away the best he can, and he helps Alex become better at basketball, with the trials fast approaching. All the practice was a success, and Alex makes the team. Scarlett is so proud. She then shows them the backyard, now finished. Mike can't believe it, and is very complimentary, which Scarlett obviously enjoys. There's some tension, and she breaks it by telling Mike that she has a date tonight. As Scarlett gets ready for the date, she dances in the living room. Mike watches, jokes a little about her dance moves, and then asks if she can teach him. Soon the two are swaying in the living room together. It's close and a little too romantic. He speaks of her husband, asking what he can do to fix the marriage. She says that she loves her husband, but that just isn't enough. When the date arrives, Mike is rude to him, which the date misinterprets as the son being upset with his mom dating someone new. Mike drags Alex to a party at a bowling alley in an effort to get him to talk to the girl he likes. Alex is terrified, but Mike talks him into it, pushing his son to finally find some courage. And he does too, speaking awkwardly to her for a few minutes until he accidentally sets himself on fire by standing too close to a candle. While at the party, Mike bumps into Maggie. He asks her about Stan, and she tells him that Stan is her forever, and she's going to go to a community college rather than a state college so that she can be with him. Mike freaks out, telling her that he forbids it. She, of course, has no idea who he is, and she calls him a freak and leaves. Mike's furious. It's the first game of the season, and the team is down by 6. Seeing Scarlett in the crowd with a date spurs Mike on, and he scores a couple of quick points. In the final play, however, he passes the ball to Alex, and Alex wins the game for the team. He's swarmed by people, including the girl he likes. They have an awkward conversation. Ned ambushes the principal in the parking lot and convinces her to go on a date with him. Mike sees this and decides to throw a party at Ned's house, so as to give Alex another chance with the girl. Mike spots Maggie in the bleachers crying. He approaches and asks what's wrong. She opens up, telling him that Stan dumped her because she wouldn't sleep with him. Mike comforts her a little too well, and soon she's happy again, and throwing herself at him. He tries to defuse the situation and invites her to the party instead. At dinner, Ned blusters as he tries to impress Jane. Things are going terribly, until he reveals that he's actually a huge nerd, the kind of nerd that knows how to speak Elvish. Surprisingly, this only impresses Jane, who speaks Elvish back to him. Ned can't believe his luck. At the party, Mike notices Stan pressuring Maggie. He intervenes, and when Maggie claims that she is now with Mike, Stan punches Mike in the face and knocks him out. Mike wakes up in bed with Maggie watching over him. She tries to seduce him, and when he rebuffs, she assumes he's gay. He tells her that he isn't, but that he's in love with someone else. Scarlett turns up at the party looking for Alex. Mike intercepts and shows her that Alex is with a girl. Scarlett can't help but be happy, and she's grateful to Mike for helping him out so much. They talk for a moment, mainly about how great of a mother Scarlett is. But then Mike tries to kiss her, and she slaps him across the face. It's the next morning, and Ned tells Mike that he succeeded, that his children's lives are now better thanks to him. Mike doesn't agree though, thinking that he needs more time, that he doesn't want to be out of his children's lives just yet. It's the day of the divorce hearing, and Ned rushes Mike there as fast as he can. At the court, it looks as if Scarlett is going to get full custody. Then Mike turns up and reads a letter that he wrote, claiming it to be from older Mike. The letter speaks of how much he still loves Scarlett, how much he always has, since the day they first met. Scarlett listens, and the letter has a clear impact on her. She asks the judge if they can postpone the divorce. Mike gives up. He realizes that the spirit path thing wasn't real, and that maybe he's just stuck this way. He even considers going to college, maybe starting his life over again. The game is on, and Scarlett watches from the bleachers. She starts to have flashbacks to the night her husband proposed. She realizes that maybe, just maybe, this Mike is her husband, and he was telling the truth. She freaks out and flees the game. Mike sees her, and in a moment of deja vu, he chases her, leaving the game and the chance at a new future. In the stands, watching the whole time, is the janitor, who couldn't look more pleased. Mike chases Scarlett into the halls, and as he does, he transforms back into his older self. Scarlett can't believe it, and neither can Mike. He apologizes to her for the last 20 years, realizing that he wasn't appreciative of the amazing life that he had. He promises that he'll change, and asks for another chance. Of course, she agrees and forgives him. Later on, Mike stops by Ned's house to drop off the keys. He finds Ned in bed with Jane, both dressed in Elvish cosplay. Ned congratulates him on the new job as head coach for the high school basketball team, and Mike looks as if he's actually excited about it. Finally, his life is starting to look like how he always imagined. This was a recap of the film 17 Again, produced by Warner Brothers Pictures and released in 2009. Directed by Burr Steers, it stars Zac Efron, Leslie Mann, and Matthew Perry. What age would you want to relive if you had the chance? Tell us with the hashtag CinemaRecap in the comments.